Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Nick Saylor with Saylor Tax and Accounting. Today I'm making a video talking about the EA exam, specifically level 1 of the EA exam, because I just took it this morning and I got the good news right away that I passed. So I'm real pumped up about that and excited to share with you what the EA exam and certification is and how you get it and how you study for it, just what I've thought of the overall process so far after taking test number 1. So the EA is a license that the IRS gives out. It stands for Enrolled Agent. You can get this license if you go through the IRS process to do so. Basically, you need to get a PTIN number and then you take 3 tests. Each test requires several hours of study. The first is on individual taxation, the second level is on business taxation, and the third is on audit representation and best practices for tax filing. Now, the main reason I have chosen to get the EA license is because I'm running a tax and accounting business. I learn new stuff every week. It's been great. But part of that is that I want to keep learning more, so it helps me learn more, but also have confidence and have my clients have the confidence that I am truly a tax professional, because without any licenses, you can do great work, but it may be hard to get some people to believe you. And even just it helps having confidence in yourself, knowing that I'm doing the right thing. I know what I'm doing, and that's really what I'm after, is the confidence that I'll get from it. And also, at the end of the day, it's going to be a good marketing tool to get new clients, putting those letters after my name. So like I said, there's not a ton of complexity that it comes with getting the EA license. Basically, you need a PTIN number, you need to register for tests, and you need to take the tests and pass them. I think you can retake the test if you don't pass them several times, but each test does cost around $300, I believe. I enrolled for the test a few weeks ago, and I don't even remember how much I paid for it, but I think it's around $300 for each level. So you can expect that you're probably gonna sink about $1,000 getting this certification. And along with that is you need to pay for a study guide, I would say. I use Hawk International. It came highly recommended. I just read a bunch of places on Reddit, and I knew a few people who had used Hawk as well. Basically, it takes you through the book. It gives you kind of a syllabus of how you should go through the book and lots of practice and test questions. I'm gonna put a link in the description for this study guide, but I'd really recommend it. It's nice. It doesn't cost like what a course normally would, where it's like, $500 or $1,000. Instead, you just pay about $40 per month to do the test. They have a personalized study system, which shows you plug in your exam date, which mine was about 2 months out that I scheduled it. And then it shows, okay, you need to study this many hours per week if you want to complete the test in time. So like I said, I took the individual taxation portion of this exam first. You can technically take it in any order you want, but I thought this was a good place to start. I'm primarily focused in business taxes, but with all the pass-through entities like partnerships and S corporations, it all flows through to the personal return at the end of the day. So I did prepare 20 or 30 personal tax returns this spring. So I was, well familiar with a lot of the themes of personal taxation already, but some of the nuance of special cases that you can see when you're preparing tax returns on a large scale, there were definitely a lot of new things for me to learn as part of this. So now I'll kind of go through the main pieces of this individual exam and kind of what you have to do to learn it. The first is preliminary work and taxpayer data. So it kind of talks about how you should be collecting this data from clients and what you should be looking for when you're preparing a tax return. And also the simple stuff like filing status. Are they single, married, head of household, or qualifying surviving spouse? So there's some, you've heard of single and married a lot, but it's good to learn about, the different, less common types. Second is income and assets. So this talks about different types of income. So there's, W-2 income, which is ordinary income. It's also, capital gains, royalty income, all different types of things, scholarship income. It really just peels back every type of income and asset that you can have as far as it pertains to, income tax. Number 3 is deductions and credits. There's tons of deductions, not as many credits, but still quite a few to learn about. So deductions and taxation can be really tricky because there's different income limits and different filing statuses that are allowed, things and not. Credits are the same, like earned income credit, child tax credit, all these things. You've probably heard of them before, but this is where you actually study the topics deeply, because a lot of these things, a lot of the people you encounter will fall within 90% of the variance, but then it's the 10% or even the 1% of people you encounter where this like odd rule kicks in that you probably wouldn't know if you hadn't studied. This is where I think the test helps a lot in the study because it shows all the unique scenarios. Not that you're gonna memorize every single one like you need to for the test, but even if I don't memorize everything moving forward, there's going to be something in the back of my mind when I encounter these, more nuanced situations in the future. Number 4 is taxation. This was a shorter section, but it's more about, how the tax brackets work, where capital gains are taxed, all this sort of thing, and how the income, deductions, credits on a tax return actually come in to, determine what you owe in taxes. Number 5, they call it advising the individual taxpayer, which I thought was interesting because a lot of it is about like retirement accounts and things like that. Retirement accounts, HSAs, all sorts of different nuanced things like accounts that a taxpayer can have. This was really good because very similarly, a lot of times you just hear about a 401k and IRA, but there's several other things like an HSA, like FSA, like USERAs from small business owners, and all sorts of stuff. So it's important to learn that so you can advise taxpayers best on maybe the types of vehicles that they use to move money between. And finally, section 6 was specialized returns for individuals. This was 2 main sections. One was international income and asset reporting. So this is where you talk about people with international income or people who may live overseas and how you get different foreign tax credits, things like that. And then the other was really interesting to me because I learned a lot, was gift returns, gift tax, estate tax, things like that. What happens when someone dies or when someone gives money to another party. Now, each of these sections has their own module within Hawk International. And as you chunk through, they're broken into smaller subsections. There's different test questions for each one. Once you get to the end of each section, you'll have a big review where you'll review the whole section and also review prior sections along with the current section so that you're not only learning the new piece that you just learned, but retaining everything that you've learned in the past. At the end, it has several final exams, which are 100 questions, just like the actual IRS test. Kind of gets you in the zone. I took one yesterday that made me feel pretty good about it. I think I got maybe like an 85% on it when I went through pretty quick. You have 3.5 hours for the test, but really when you're doing multiple choice questions, it was taking me about an hour in practice to do 100 questions. When I took the test today, it took me about an hour 45 just because it was a little trickier. And I just took extra time to make sure, I was using a calculator instead of just using, doing math in my head, things like that. All right, so let's talk quickly about how much I studied. So Hawk International, I think, recommended that you study about 150 hours before taking the test. What I learned was that it didn't take me as long to study as they said it would. They would basically say that a unit would take, let's say they said it would take 10 hours. By the time I studied it, it would usually take me about 2 or 3 at the max. What they do is they give you the textbook to read, and then they give you a video where a lady does a PowerPoint and talks through it, which were really great. And then it gives you, several practice questions on each topic. I started off reading, watching the videos, and doing the practice questions, but in the end, I ended up just doing the reading and then doing the practice questions. It wasn't anything against the videos. I thought they were good, but just the time constraints I had, I just thought it was more worth it to read it, make sure I had seen it once and read through it, and then do the questions. When you get questions right or wrong, it will tell you why it was right or wrong and references different things. So you can almost learn, I feel like you could almost learn just by doing practice questions. I would still advise reading first. So yeah, so Hawk International tells you how long you should study for. They said for level 1, I think it was 150 or 160 hours. But like I said, since my amount studied was usually 25% of what was recommended, I think 25% of 150 is about 37 hours. So it feels like I studied more than that. I studied, most nights for 8 weeks, but that would be, about 37 hours required. So I would say, expect to spend 50 hours would be a really probably low end ballpark, but that's what it took me. All right, on the day of the test, I took the test at 8 a.m. I got up and I did like 30 practice questions. I felt confident that I knew the stuff and I didn't really want to fry my brain before the test. You take the test through this place called Prometric. It's kind of like an old school place where you go take, if you've ever had to go to a public place to take tests before, it's just like that. You check in, you can't take anything in. It's just you and a computer, a piece of scratch paper and a calculator. Had 3.5 hours to do the test. It only took me, like I said, about a little under 2 hours, an hour 45. Now, on the actual test, I was actually, I was really confident going in, but when I was looking at the test, I was kind of concerned because a lot of the questions I got, it wasn't that I wasn't prepared on the Hawk International stuff. Like, I had read this stuff, but there were certain questions that I hadn't seen practice questions like, and there were some things that I just didn't know. It felt like the multiple choice had, there were 4 answers always, and 2 of them I knew it wasn't it, but then 2 seemed kind of ambiguous, so it was tough. So I wasn't like 1,000,000% confident that I passed the test. I still thought I did, but it does tell you the results right away when you submit the test, and I did get the word that I passed. It doesn't give you an exact score of what you get, but it does send you this write-up after, grading you on a scale of 1, 2, and 3. Basically 1 is that you're not proficient, 2 is that you're proficient but not like great, and then number 3 was that you're a rock star at it. So I got the 6 sections back and I had 4 2s and 2 3s. So honestly not as good as I would have expected or liked. I'd like to just have 3s on all of them, but I did get a 3 on taxation. I can't remember the other one. So at the end of the day, I understand how taxation works. I learned a ton from it, and I'm excited to move on to the business portion of the EA exams. I think what I'm gonna do is schedule it out probably 6 or 8 weeks. I like to schedule them before I even start studying. That way I can't procrastinate. I know that I need to get going, otherwise I'm gonna have to put in some long weeks of studying. So that's what I would recommend doing too. I don't think it should take you any longer than 8 weeks to study for these. I really wouldn't give yourself like 3 or 6 months for one level. Yeah, I could have read more and watched more videos and maybe retained it a little bit better, but I think anything beyond 3 months is probably just procrastinating and putting it off a little bit. So that's my plan. Schedule something for 6 to 8 weeks out, and then I'll schedule the next one for like a month later since it's a shorter test. I plan to give updates after level 2 and level 3, and then maybe do a full recap after I have the EA certification in full. But that's all for now. I hope this was helpful to you. Thanks for watching. As always, I'm Nick Saylor at Saylor Tax and Accounting.